I want to thank you for being here for our second annual First Responder Dinner. And we're very excited to establish this as an annual event because it gives us a chance in a small way to show our appreciation for your service in general and specifically for the work that you do with the people we also serve. We have two goals tonight. The primary goal is to highlight the work you do in our community to respond to and care for people with behavioral health problems. The second is to present a new health department behavioral health project, a partnership with first responders, and one we hope will assist you in your work and pave the way for future collaborations. As behavioral health professionals, we specialize in disorders of the brain. We have had many years of education and experience in understanding these brain disorders. And we have a really thick manual of diagnostic codes that inform our work. We understand the underlying genetic and environmental factors that intertwine to create often aberrant behavior. You encounter these behaviors on an often daily basis without a guidebook. Signs and symptoms of somatic disorders are often visible in broken bones, bleeding, chest pains, difficulty breathing. Signs and symptoms of disordered brains are often not as visible. They present in such ways as anger outbursts, problems with thinking clearly or responding to verbal commands, poor judgment, hearing things in the walls, erratic and often self-destructive behavior such as substance misuse and overdose. Many of these brain disorder symptoms can lead to an encounter with one of you. And we want to express our appreciation for the continued care and consideration you give in these times, even when the behaviors seem inexplicable, senseless, or even to use a non-clinical term, crazy. We are still in the middle of an opioid epidemic, but thanks to all the hard work of all of our county and community partners in establishing jail reentry programs, adult treatment courts, school-based counseling, expanding access to MAT and other treatment options, solid outreach program, distributing resource lists and naloxone kits, the drug take-back days, and so many other collaborations and community efforts. We are making a difference. We are having an impact. I remember hearing about a county in Ohio where the sheriff decided to stop wasting money on Narcan to revive these people who were obviously, in his uneducated opinion, making a choice. And I remember hearing Sheriff Evans speaking at a community outreach event here in Calvert, and he said, we will keep administering Narcan no matter what, because you never know what time will be the time that makes a difference. Now, this was when he was on the campaign trail, but I've spoken to him since then, and he does still have that belief. Tonight is an opportunity to let you know that you do make a difference every day. You see people at often the worst time of their life. We see the people that you save recover. We want to share with you that there is hope, there is treatment, and people do recover. Now, as for our project, we have a short video to show.
Studies show that when a person is ready to recover, they have that moment of courage. It may be very fleeting. They have to have immediate access.
Calvert County Behavioral Health has been awarded a $1.5 million state opioid response grant by the Maryland Department of Health. We are gearing up to hit the streets with a mobile crisis unit in our continuous effort to combat the opioid epidemic. But we can't do it alone. By building strong partnerships with fire, EMS, and police, we can assist the front line in serving our community by providing an alternative approach to overdose response. What we propose will lead to rapid access to treatment while freeing up valuable time for emergency responders. Let us show you how. When an emergency call comes into dispatch, fire, EMS, police, and now Calvert County Behavioral Health's Mobile Crisis Unit will all receive those notifications in real time. The Mobile Crisis Unit will stage back upon arrival and wait for police to clear the scene and EMS to medically clear the individual if appropriate. Currently, if a person refuses to go to the hospital, the person is EP'd. Now, if medically cleared by EMS, the person has another choice. The Mobile Crisis Team will be able to initiate rapid access to treatment. With the clinician, medical staff, and recovery support specialist on hand, the client will have an on-site assessment completed, referral to treatment, and peer support for additional resources. In addition to the immediate benefits to the client, this will also alleviate the time constraints put on first responders.
Let's work together to build an innovative solution to address the opioid crisis in our community. We don't need to tell you the devastating effects of this epidemic. You see it every day. Let's pool together our resources so we can most efficiently serve people in their greatest hour of need. Let us help you free up your valuable time and resources. Let our behavioral health professionals help you serve people in distress. Let's open the door for future collaboration in this fast-changing world.
Thanks for your attention. I'm Larry Polsky. I head the health department. I was supposed to do the closing remarks. My mother-in-law broke her hip, and my wife just had to fly down to Florida to be with her. So my time got a little compressed. So you're going to get 8 minutes of your life back instead of 10 minutes at the end, 2 minutes now. I just want to take a moment. You're going to talk plenty about behavioral health, but I just want to say in general how much we appreciate, and not just from the health standpoint, but as a member of the community. A volunteer from my local rescue squad came by our house on Monday, and I was more than happy to write a donation check. I realized that your work is not just work. You do this for the community. This is true passion that you put into all this, and all that you all need to do to keep services available for everybody. So just a general, true sense of appreciation from me for everything that all of you do. Hope you enjoy your dinner, and for everyone getting an award tonight, very well deserved. And for those of you who are not getting a little plaque to take home, everyone really should be getting an award tonight. So thank you all.
Good evening. Thank you. A person who is admired or idolized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. That is the definition of a hero. Tonight, we honor our local heroes, our citizens who have taken on a role of bravery and compassion, who have been chosen by their peers to be awarded in excelling in their efforts to serve our community. It is my honor to present to you the recipients of the Fire and Rescue Station Awards. As I call your name, please step forward to receive your award and have your picture taken. You can then have your seat. Don't leave the room because we will call you all back up to get a group photo. From North Beach Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad, Eric Morgan. Yes, and Scott is here from Senator Van Hollen's office for some citations to give. From Prince Frederick Volunteer Fire Department, in recognition of 50 years of service, Dwight Arminger and Robert Hall Jr. Unfortunately, Dwight was unable to attend the meeting. From Solomon's Volunteer Rescue Squad and Fire Department, Colton Poundsbury. Oh my God.
He was surprised because he said he was
From Prince Frederick Volunteer Rescue Squad, Alan Ridgely. Unfortunately, Alan was unable to attend this evening. And accepting in his stance is Donna. From Dunkirk Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad, Russell Passwaters. From Huntingtown Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad, Alexis T. From St. Leonard Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad, Alexander Graham. Unfortunately, Alexander was unable to attend this evening. And you are accepting Stacy. Stacy. From Calvert Advanced Life Support, James Laska. And could all recipients please step forward in this general vicinity for a group photo?
You always have me.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipients of the Fire and Rescue Station Awards. Next is Ashley Staples Reed presenting the Law Enforcement Awards.
To protect and to serve. The fact that law enforcement wake up every day with this motto in mind is enough to give thanks. But our policemen and women of Calvert County go above and beyond just protect and serve. Our officers show compassion. They show strength, and they show courage. They give us guidance, and they give us thanks, all while putting their lives on the line to do just that, protect and serve. They are our friends, and they are our family. Thank you for all that you do. It is my honor to present the following officers with our Law Enforcement Recognition Awards. First up, we have from Calvert County Sheriff's Office, Deputy First Class Brian Poundsbury.
Far removed.
And then from Maryland State Police, Barrack U, we have Trooper First Class, Sean Matthews.
Part of my car wash. That's how it is when you get older.
Thank you guys again.
That's
Lastly, on our agenda for this evening for awards, we would like to have Meg and Sarah Kaya come up and give us an introduction for our peer recognition awards.
Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's full and happy, which is always a plus. Over the last 2 years, we have seen a sharp growth and negative impact in our community in regards to the opioid epidemic. With increased needs, we have improved and expanded our recovery support services. Each one of our staff within the program plays a unique role as recovery specialists. At this time, if they can please stand in recognition. Our responsibilities include many behind-the-scenes supports, but most importantly, linking services for treatment. Our main goal is to provide hope and support for those in need. On behalf of our organization, we would like to thank each and every one of you for giving and sharing equal interest and dedication in this epidemic. We would like to recognize you all for your willingness to serve our community members, especially those in need. Our hopes are to grow and continue collaboration between all community partnerships so we are more equipped to serve our community. It is my pleasure to introduce our speakers tonight who will share their stories of a second chance at life. None will which be possible without all of you. So if I can bring up Michelle Hall.
Hi everybody, my name is Michelle Hall, and before I specifically thank the officer who quite possibly saved my life a little over 2 years ago, I need to extend the most sincere gratitude to all the first responders who have been there on numerous occasions to save my life over the last 21 years. Truly, if it weren't for all of you collectively, I am quite certain I would not be standing in front of you today. My hope is that my story will give first responders a sense of hope when they are dealing with the using addict for the 2nd, 5th, and even the 10th time. As I can only imagine the sheer frustration you must experience with people like me and how often you become jaded and feel like your efforts are a waste of time. Let me assure you they are not. If addicts like me are breathing, there is hope. I have been battling addiction for over 20 years and managed to put together over a year clean on several occasions, but never made it past 20 months. In 5 days, I will have 20 months clean. A little over 2 years ago, and I am going to butcher his name, so I'm almost glad he's not here. Deputy First Class Andrew Ostazeski. Can I butcher it? All right. He responded to a call where he found me in a park somewhere in Calvert County apparently incoherent and unconscious. I only mention that alcohol is my drug of choice to emphasize that the opioid epidemic is not the only substance killing addicts like me. The disease of addiction is. I've been found with BAC levels above 0.67 on numerous occasions. I truly have no recollection of the event of that night. What I do know is that this was the beginning of me becoming willing to go to treatment again for the 20th time, 20 years later. And if it wasn't for Officer Ostateski, I may easily have died that night. From the bottom of my heart, I thank him and all of you for giving me yet another chance at life. I want you to know I haven't taken it for granted. I have gone back to school. I'm on track to finish my BA in the spring of 2020. I'm a 4.0 student. I run a small business where I try to employ other people like me and give them second chances, because many chances were given to me. I'm an active member of a 12-step program, and I do my best to give back to the new people as well as the community. To all the first responders who've had a part in saving my life, I thank you. I know people like me make your job difficult, and we are often ungrateful for your actions until we realize that you truly have given us another chance at life.
Unfortunately, the officers that were receiving the awards tonight are not present. However, it will get to them. I would like to bring up Andrew Higgs to share his second chance at life story. If you can please come up here.
Thank you, everyone. So basically, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I'm gonna tell you a little about where I came from and what I'm doing now. I was born and bred corn-fed Calvert County. I've lived here my entire life. I was raised about 2 minutes from here, and I still live there. Along the way, I got involved with drugs and alcohol and things of that nature, and committed some crimes and was arrested. The officer that arrested me, like Megan just said, is not here tonight. But I do remember that very professional and wasn't looking at me like basically, I needed help, you know. It wasn't like, you know, the hardened criminal that you might see that, you know, stealing things and doing things of that nature. So basically my message tonight is like, it's hope that we can have that second chance on life. And I was arrested, I was put into jail, released on my own recognizance, and then over a period of time, I was put into drug court. And I completed drug court about 6 months ago. And like Michelle, I'm also in 12-step programs where I try to help people out, and I do a lot of public speaking, go into rehabs, kids in high school, down at the farm, across the bridge on 231, and things of that nature. I recently have been, the Maryland State Police have contacted me and actually allowed me to go get my fingerprints redone. I am a certified locksmith and security technician. I have a top secret clearance again. So, you know, that's always good when it's trying to find some work. I currently work for basically a security company that we do all types of electronic security work. Actually, I did security in this building, which is kind of weird that I'm speaking. So, you know, along with that, you know, I've been let back in. I've got 2 wonderful parents, and you know, they just tell me all the time how proud of me that, yeah, you get it. I speak a lot, right? So, things of that nature. I'll tell you a little story. My aunt called me the other day and told me that my uncle was going to the hospital, had to have a triple bypass surgery. Everything's cool with him or whatever. I just simply said, what can I do? Before, never would have said that. Didn't really care. Now, like, truly, genuinely care. And, you know, she just texted me back 3 simple words, and it really hit home for me. And she said, you're doing it. Just simply, you're doing it. So this new outlook on life, this new lease on life, second chance, third chance, how many ever it takes, you know, I take it very seriously from day to day. And basically, I just try to get up and do the next right thing every day. Just for whatever reason, I've just retrained myself to think the proper way as it may be seen. So, to all the first responders, fire, EMS, the peer recovery specialists, Calvert Health, everyone involved, like, it is a culmination. Like, you don't see, it's not roses every day when you go to work. I'm fully aware. I've got plenty of friends that are still out there, and I've got plenty of friends that have joined me in recovery. And I just want to say simply thank you. Like, there is not enough words that I can say to just say thank you for everything that you do in this community, from where I was brought up and I live and I truly love today. So thank you very much.
And last but not least, David Brenton.
I first wanted to start off by saying thank you to Calvert County Behavioral Health for allowing me the honor to share my story, and also to thank each and every first responder and interventionist in this room. The job and responsibilities each of you share may be taken for granted by many. I am not one of that many. I cannot imagine the scenes of horror, sadness, and seeming hopelessness each one of you must endure on a daily basis. Waking up each day and heading to your jobs, unknowing of what you may have to experience that day. And it takes a special kind of strength to be able to deal with the inevitable heavy and painful emotions that are invoked when dealing with the multitude of scenarios that are foisted upon you day in and day out. Wondering if all you do and have done has made a difference when you pull up to the various scenes. The car accidents, the slip and falls, the fires, the break-ins, the domestic disturbances, the drug overdoses, and the suicides. I am one of the latter, the suicides. In the early part of 2008, my life had derailed due to my years of terrible and selfish choices. Choices that hurt and damaged not only myself, but those closest to me as well. My sole purpose in life at that time had become one of an endless and unquenchable desire to get high at all costs. And the price I was paying for it had left me with no hope, and in my mind, no other option. My childhood is one not so unique, but one that is all too often shared amongst those who later become addicts. A violent and broken home where drugs and physical abuse were a daily occurrence, so much so that if a day passed without the violence and drug abuse present, I would have begun to worry something was wrong. I grew up watching my mother being abused by various boyfriends over the years, and as a small and frightened child, the hopelessness I would feel was an emotion beyond the realm of description. The only hope I had was to pick up the phone and make a call. I could dial just a couple of numbers, and dialing those numbers, help would soon be on the way. I remember waiting at the window and shaking, crying uncontrollably for help to arrive. Waiting anxiously for the first hint of help, and soon enough the flashes from the emergency vehicles would wash over my house as the emergency responders arrived. To me, a feeling of safety and peace always arrived along with those lights. The badges and the uniforms they wore were a representation of what was good in the world. And the moment they came to my home, I knew all would be well and things would get better. Those first responders, were always so friendly to my brother and I, and because of their compassion and care for us, they left such an impression on my younger brother that during his entire childhood, he wanted to become a police officer. Those police who showed up to our home all too often became aware of my brother's dream to emulate them, and they would show up with different pieces of police equipment to give him. I would easily say this is a prime example of going above and beyond in the call of duty, all in an effort to simply bring a smile to a scared child's face. Sadly, however, I as an adult would go above and beyond in my pursuit of drugs and self-destruction. After years of drug abuse that started out innocently enough with underage drinking and occasional marijuana use, I would find myself graduating from pain pills and strung out on heroin. Facing new theft charges, I was now totally and completely ostracized and exiled from all who knew me. Having just received a letter from my mother in which the contents of it told me what a complete and utter monster I had become, and that her and every person who knew me now no longer recognized me, and that I was only slowly killing myself, and she could no longer bear to watch. I made my way to a 7-Eleven in Huntington and took the last bit of my money I had purchased, a pack of razor blades. I then walked over to a park and ride in front of Emmanuel Church and took a brief second to make my plan to leave this world and go into a place that no longer contained the hurt and loneliness I was feeling. I opened the razor blades and was about to finalize my decision when a fleeting thought went through my head. I thought about the school buses passing by that location in the morning. Having suffered abuse and trauma as a child, I didn't want my last decision to hurt any kids. That may happen upon the scene only hours later. For the first time in over 15 years, I picked up my phone and I found myself dialing those 3 numbers again. But this time I was dialing for a reason I never imagined I would. I told the operator where they would find the body, and I hung up. And I went through with my final act and waited. I waited for it all just to be over. A life of unfulfilled potential, a life of selfish endeavor, a life that meant nothing to me anymore. It wasn't too long after that that I saw the lights again, the ones that used to make me feel at peace, the ones that carried with them a reprieve from pain. But not this time. This time they brought a feeling of sickness and panic that my plan would be ruined. My plan to alleviate the world's suffering by eradicating my existence was in jeopardy. It was an officer that showed up first. He slowly stepped from his car, confirming on his arrival through his radio. He shined a flashlight on me and in a very sweet and calming voice asked me if I was okay, though I'm sure he already knew the answer to his question once he saw me. He called for an ambulance, stating that to the dispatcher there had been a significant amount of blood loss. He sat with me and told me help would be on the way. He also told me that even though things were bad right now, that I couldn't give up and that one day things would be better. The ambulance showed up, more first responders. They walked up to me in a very respectful and caring tone and asked if it was okay to take a look at me, the whole time being very careful not to be condescending or judgmental to me in the least. I was taken to the hospital and a nurse came into the room and looked at my wound, another first responder as far as I'm concerned. She very delicately looked at my wrist, and she looked at me in the eyes and said to me in the most heartbreaking tone I have ever heard, "Oh, sweetie, why would you want to do this?" My eyes filled with tears and my throat closed off, and I couldn't answer. She looked at me again and said, "You are loved. You are someone's little boy, and no matter what you have done, I promise you that they love you with their heart." It was the first time in my life that someone's words had made me feel good and horrible all at once, and I will never forget them as long as I live. I wish this was the point in the story where I could tell you I got clean and sober and walked off into the sunset to live a full and productive life, but I didn't. I would go on to further punish myself and others with more selfish choices for another 6 years. But I did get clean. On October 8th of 2014, I would go on to get clean. I would go on to land a job with the catering company that made and served the food to the very rehab I was a resident in. I would go on to start my own side business. I went on to get interviewed by Humans of Calvert, who did a video journal about the story of my recovery. That video was viewed over 20,000 times and hopefully was the catalyst in someone else's life that needed it. I also went on to get a job at that church I tried killing myself in front of as associate worship leader. And that video was the reason my pastor asked me to give my testimony on Easter Sunday. That testimony led me to meeting an amazing girl, and that amazing girl became my wife, and the two of us became mother and father to the most adorable and very loud little boy that you ever met. He is honestly the cutest little boy I've ever seen, and I'm not just saying that because I'm his dad. Trust me, if he had a rat face, I would have told you. Here's the point to all my rambling. None of that would have happened without the first responders. You. All of you. Not a single bit of it. Had I never known to pick up and dial those 3 numbers, my life would have ended in a dark and lonely parking ride in the late hours of that night. Some of you may go on for years, if not decades, without a bit of appreciation, or you may never know if you made a difference in someone's life. You may never know how your actions and service will affect not only those you come into direct contact with, but how those people you directly help will go on to affect others all over the world. Though you may not know about them, let me then tell you what you did infect me and made a difference in my life and my family's life. And we cannot thank you enough. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight and being that next helping hand, and supporting the community and being out there and showing that recovery is possible. With the closing remarks, I'd like to invite Ashley Staples back. Oh, sorry, never mind, mistake, my bad. Actually, there's one more, and it's a surprise. So, that being said, I'd like to introduce the peer recovery specialist, outreach, street outreach, Andrew Licurgo.
All right. I
so funny. But if you were here at our event last year, you heard me share my story a little bit. I was revived by Narcan, went to rehab a little later on, been in recovery ever since. And like Dave was talking about, that was a nice segue into what, my mom's here. She's going to share a little bit about the lives that are affected, not just mine, but it's kind of like you also saved her life, my dad's life, my brother's life, they're all over here. So, my beautiful mother, Jenna Licurgo.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm Drew's mom. Everybody here tonight has a story. There's a reason you're here on this night, in this place, for this event. And I'm just going to share a little bit about my story. I'm not an addict, but my husband and I are the parents of 2 recovering heroin addicts. 2 sons, 2 addicts. For those of you who love an addict, you know how devastating it is to watch the gradual, inevitable self-destruction of addiction. I'm going to focus tonight just on our younger son's descent into a life of heroin addiction by beginning just a bit of the backstory. You kind of blew my whole thing here because I wasn't going to say your name till the end, but anyway. That's okay. All right. Drew and his older brother, Jonathan, grew up on a small farm. They got along for the most part, but like all siblings, they had their disagreements from time to time, also referred to as fights. We, his parents, embarrassed him once in a while because we happened to love one another and from time to time exhibited public displays of affection. Drew was an intelligent, funny, happy, well-adjusted kid who enjoyed exploring in the woods, riding his bike, going fishing, playing football. He never got into any significant trouble, just the usual kid stuff, like sneaking candy without permission. When Drew was 11, he discovered a passion for music. He picked up his older brother's guitar and taught himself to play. He also taught himself to play drums and piano. By the time he was 12, he was composing music and lyrics and seeking refuge in one of our barns to record his own songs on a secondhand laptop. His talent became a gift. He didn't read music, but music was in his soul. During his teen years and early 20s, he had a home studio where he would write, perform, produce his own music. During these years, he also became a talented, self-taught graphic designer, accepting jobs building websites, creating logos, designing CD covers, among other projects. When Drew was 20, he moved out on his own. He was a hard worker and he was fully self-supporting. We, his parents, breathed a sigh of relief, foolishly believing that he'd be just fine, because after all, he'd made it this far. We were completely unaware that our gifted, happy son had become a full-blown, blackout alcoholic before his 21st birthday. We didn't know he was smoking weed. We had no idea he went on to abuse Percocet, and we were stunned when we learned he was using heroin. Heroin. We just couldn't wrap our heads around that. That's just about the worst of the worst. What the heck happened? How did this happen? Why did this happen? What did we do wrong as parents? When we confronted him about this, we were met with the typical drug addict responses: lies, denial. When his then girlfriend broke up with him, he bounced around from place to place, never staying in one location for very long. Eventually, he ended up homeless, jobless, and strung out. He was a shadow of the person we used to know. Some days he was dark and quiet and completely turned within himself. Other days he was bright and talkative and appeared to be more like the son we knew. We would come to find out that the dark days were the days of withdrawal. The bright days were the days he got enough cash together for his fix. You see, when using drugs becomes abusing, and when abusing becomes addiction, there's no longer a high, there's just getting well. The addict brain ceases production of its own feel-good chemicals and becomes totally dependent on the heroin for just normal functioning. We didn't know that. We had to learn it the hard way. Drew would later share with me that heroin addiction is a living hell. He would awaken physically sick every morning with something that can only be described as the worst kind of flu you could imagine. The only thing occupying his thoughts was, what can I do today to get enough money, to get enough heroin, to get me through the day? Until he had his fix, he was completely unable to function in any capacity. That studio of his was gradually pawned piece by piece as he sold off all his worldly possessions to support his habit. He lost everything of any importance to him: his home, his relationships, his love of music, and any desire to go on living. He even had to voluntarily surrender his beloved dog because he couldn't afford to take care of him, let alone support himself. He was begging and borrowing from anyone and everyone. The only thing left was his car and whatever belongings would fit in it. We unknowingly enabled him for a long while, but eventually had to cut him off, refusing to help any longer. No more gas money, no more just until I get paid loans. Sometimes he'd call and ask if he could come over and get something to eat. Do you know what it's like to have to refuse food to your son? This was just incredibly painful. I'd have to tell him, no, you can't come get any food, and then I'd hang up the phone and just burst into tears. Our hearts were broken beyond description. My husband and I were consumed with worry and fear day and night, and our stomachs were in knots all the time. The only thing we could do was pray, and we prayed constantly, begging God to rescue our son from the relentless stronghold of addiction. One dreary spring morning, the call finally came. A call we'd been expecting, but never could have been prepared to receive. Our son had overdosed on heroin. He was found lying in the rain behind a business complex. His body was blue, and he was in full respiratory arrest. At the age of 27, it appeared that his life had ended. I believe that Satan himself was celebrating a victory over our son, but I also believe that God had other plans. I think God more or less said to Satan that day, yeah, watch this. Through the intervention of a first responder that morning who administered Narcan, life returned to Drew. Air filled his lungs, and he was given another chance at living. This event became the beginning of Drew's recovery journey. He entered a rehab facility a few days later, began attending 12-step meetings. He got a sponsor, he started working his steps. He learned how to maintain sobriety by turning his life over to God, his higher power, and became successful in his recovery. By the grace of God, that strung out, homeless, jobless, hopeless addict, as you can see, lives a completely different life today. On May 28th, he celebrated 3 years of sobriety and successful recovery. He's married to an incredible woman, my sweet daughter-in-law, Jordan, a woman that he, by the way, is head over heels in love with. He has a home, a dog, and a Netflix account, which according to Drew is a true measure of success. He now works as a peer recovery specialist with the Calvert County Behavioral Health Services, helping other addicts who are seeking a better life. He continues to work his recovery and attends meetings almost every night of the week. He also attends church and he leads worship for Celebrate Recovery every Friday night. He's alive, he's thriving, he's happy, he's fulfilled, and he's at peace. And so are we. Without the intervention of that first responder, that spring morning, Drew would have died in his addiction. And to every first responder here tonight, what you do matters, and you matter. And just like it was said before, you've given people countless second chances and third chances and 10th chances. And without that, there's no recovery. Like my son, addicts are more often than not good people who have made bad choices. They've unwittingly given their lives over to a dark existence they never could have imagined. No one ever says, when I grow up, I want to be an addict. They never choose to be an addict, ever. I can't imagine what it must be like to be a first responder today, witnessing overdose victims day after day after day. But like I said, every time you revive someone, you give them another chance at living. And without that first responder that morning, Drew wouldn't be standing here, and I certainly wouldn't be standing here. There are success stories. Drew is one of those success stories. Our other son, Jonathan, is another success story. But it's not just their story, it's our story too. The parents, we've got our boys back. As we walked alongside Drew in his recovery, we recovered too. And that's my story. Before I go back to my seat, I want to ask my other son to stand. Jonathan.
Okay, let me do this all over again. I would like to bring up Ashley Staples for the closing remarks.
Tired of me yet? So I know on your pamphlets it says Larry Polsky was supposed to do the final remarks, and he did mention earlier that he did have a family obligation. So here I am. So to wrap up, I do really want to reiterate the whole concept of this night. You guys matter, and you guys matter so much more than what we are vocalizing, you know, and I really hope this dinner does give you guys insight on the impact that you guys are having, especially in regards to behavioral health. Yes, we have addiction, and yes, that's substance use, but we do have mental health as well, and you guys do really have a big impact on that. So recovery is possible. You guys facilitate that. So thank you.